Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. It's a full house tonight, which is great. We love to see that, but I think you're all here for specific purposes, so we'll try to get you out. Madam Clerk, would you please read the adequate notice of compliance statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the City Clerk's office in preparation of the Council Annual Meeting Notice dated January 8, 2018, which was properly distributed and posted per statutory requirements. Please be advised that the fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room. The City has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bowman.
Here.
Ms. Fox.
Here.
Mr. Gould.
Here.
Ms. Little.
Here.
Ms. McTiernan.
Here.
Ms. Ogden.
Here.
President Naidu.
Here. Now I'd like to call on Josie Coates to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Josie?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please read the notices regarding closed session and hearings and comments?
A closed session meeting as authorized by state statute was announced and held prior to the start of this meeting, and the known items for discussion were listed on the published closed session agenda. Please be advised the council meetings are broadcast live on Comcast Channel 36 and Verizon 33, and rebroadcast on Thursdays and Saturdays on Hometown TV, also on Comcast 36 and Verizon 33. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, spell your last name, and speak into the podium microphone so that your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever an audience or council member reads from a prepared statement, please give or email a copy to the City Clerk's office at rlicatis@cityofsummit.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to approximately 3 minutes or so in length. Unless you are using an electronic device to follow the meeting agenda or needed for professional emergency contact purposes, please turn it off. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, on to minutes for approval. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of regular and closed session of March 20th, 2018?
I move to approve them.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you. Moving on. Now it's the time for reports, but I'd like to do this out of order since our student, Josie, who's doing our historical minute, is actually missing something at the high school, so let's try to get her out of here as soon as possible. Josie, do you want to come up and give your historical minute? And when you're finished, if you have what you have in writing, please give it to the clerk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Summit has a history steep in independence, and its story of becoming a township provides a lesson in the strong will and keen foresight of a few select people. Springfield, Summit, and New Providence were part of a larger area consisting of 1.5 million acres purchased from the Lenape Indians in 1644 and named Elizabethtown after England's Queen Elizabeth. In 1793, Springfield Township, which included New Providence at that time known as Turkey, and Summit, known as Turkey Hill, separated from Elizabethtown. In 1809, New Providence and Turkey Hill separated from Springfield Township, but Turkey Hill operated politically under New Providence Township. By the late 1860s, Summit Township was growing increasingly irritated at New Providence Township's lack of care for Summit. One of the reasons for Summit's increase in demand for independence was its growing economy due to the railroad coming to Summit in 1837, thanks to a local sawmill owner, Jonathan Crane Bonnell, who had offered land at no charge to the Morris and Essex Railroad to build the rails through Summit. Because of the railroad, Summit began its shift from a largely farming community to a capitalist resort for the wealthy. Another notable person in Summit's history is G.J. Thabod, a New York lawyer and resident of Summit, who not only rallied residents to seek independence from New Providence, but secured the introduction of the bill to New Jersey House and Senate. As the bill was being passed through the House and Senate, he found a clause that had been slipped into the bill requiring a vote of people in each township, which surely meant defeat for the people of Summit. Thebaud alerted the governor to this, and the governor demanded the bill be returned in its original form, which was easily passed, as the act to form Summit Township was approved on March 23, 1869.
Thank you, Josie. Now on to reports, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. We have a lengthy agenda and lots of presentations and, of course, the awards that are upcoming, so I'll be brief. It's hard to believe that we're well into spring, but I am optimistic that we've seen the last of this spring's snow. On March 19th, about 200 people attended the first public workshop to learn and share ideas about the Broad Street West redevelopment project. The group was engaged and we gathered a lot of information. Topology, our planner for this project, will compile everything and we will share it with the public at the next public workshop on May 5th, which the date and time again will be extensively advertised. I encourage you to go to coerb.com/broadstreet to share your comments. You can find this on the city's website. Soon, you're going to notice some signs around the project's area posing questions and giving a phone number for people to text your answers. An example would be, what would you like to see in this spot? So please give your feedback, because the more feedback we have, the better ultimate project we're going to have. Once again, I encourage everyone who has not already done so to please go to the city's website, cityofsummit.org, and sign up for regular and emergency notifications. It really is the best way to get pertinent information from the city, especially in emergencies. And lastly, New Jersey Transit officials told me last week that they expect the Morris Avenue Bridge to be finished and open by mid-June. The recent snow has not helped, but the structure is effectively done, and they are now working with Verizon, Comcast, and other utilities to complete the installation of their lines. A very significant step is reconnecting the Sanitary sewer, and that must occur during dry weather, and they expect that to take place at the end of this month. I know they keep telling us, but I'm just giving you all the information I'm getting. If I had a magic wand, I'm on the phone with them at least 3 times a week saying, can you please not work, can you work longer hours, get this done as fast as possible. So I know we're all quite anxious and very excited to get it done. So as I said once before, what a treat it'll be to drive from one end of Morris Avenue to the other without having to make 5 detours. So thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your efforts with New Jersey Transit. We can all appreciate the fact of how difficult it is to work with New Jersey Transit. There is no, our city administrator is missing tonight, and so on vacation, a well-deserved rest for him from budget work, and he will come back next week, 2 weeks from now, on April 17th, when we have our discussion about the budget, which is a public hearing. So for those of you who have not looked at the city budget, it's online, it's available. We have a 0% tax rate increase for the municipality, which is an excellent job done by city staff and by members of council in getting us to that. And I believe that this week, at some point in time, flyers will be heading out to all of your mailboxes with all the details, or at least many of the details concerning the budget, as well as to links to the city's website, where you can even get more details about the budget. But I encourage you all to look at it. This is where your tax dollars are going, and so you should know what's being done with it. I just want to make 2 quick announcements, and then we will turn it over to the fire chief for the presentations with the mayor. First, I think maybe Councilman McTiernan referred to this in the past, but I want to refer also in my congratulations to the boys hockey team, the ice hockey team, for their victory in February. They had a conference record of 10-0, and their overall record was a 24-2-2, which is a phenomenal record. So congratulations to them. Second, I want to just note on a passing, Bill Rosen, a former member of this council, who also served on the Board of Education, father to David Rosen, who has a business in town, the Rosen Kelly and Conway Architectural Group, passed away a couple of days ago. And I would like to take just a moment of silence in his memory, and then we can turn it. So, a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on now to our awards presentation. There, that's your cue, Chief. Chief Eric Evers, please.
I want to thank everybody for coming today. I do recognize some of the events that transpired on New Year's Eve last year, not only from the fire department, also the business community at large helped us out. Before I do that, I just want to talk a little bit more about the firemen you see in this room today and the work they do every day to make Summit safe. When we're not responding to emergency calls, our guys are out there every day conducting life hazard inspections of all buildings in town. Another component of that is something we call planning, pre-planning. Our guys go out to every business, they look at the business, have a significant risk either by hazards in the building construction. They look at all these hazards, bring information back to the firehouse, and they do a lot of what ifs with information. What if the fire occurred here? What if something happened? How do we mitigate these problems? We have to call other towns, help us out. Take more information, they brainstorm, and eventually I can put it into a system in our computers. So we go to these calls, like what happened on Summit Avenue. We have a lot of information at our hands to help us safely mitigate. And the goal is to reduce property damage, ultimately reduce lives lost, people hurt. So, great thing to do every day. So, I'll give them all a round of applause here today. So, before we get to the award for the firemen, I just want to talk a little bit about. It takes a lot of work when you have fires like this in town. It's a big event for us. It exhausts our resources very quickly. So we rely a lot on other towns like Milburn Fire Department, we have agreements with, to get us coverage, and also towns in Union County, we have mutual aid agreements with. Without their support, we cannot mitigate fires like this. It's a very large-scale fire, like I say, really exhausts our resources. So really applaud them for coming out and helping us out when we have these instances. We respond to over 200 calls a year, 120 though the fire calls, so we do a lot. Without the help of Lloyd's organization, we really couldn't do the job we do. So I just appreciate all that. So we have a couple of awards for the businesses. So we'd like to ask the committee to come up. And some of the diners are here tonight. Grand Summit Hotel, Vida's Organic Food, Summit YMCA, Other Fellows First Foundation, and the Red Cross.
So I'd like to start with thanking first the members of the YMCA, Terry Clinton, Paul Tasika, were very, very quick to jump into action and say, what can we do to be supportive? They gathered and took care of, and was the housing place for many pieces of clothing that were delivered. There were countless bags of clothing that were and dispersed to the residents of 125 Summit Avenue. They were a place where people could come and not just get some clothing that they needed, but also be comforted and listen. And I think that, you know, if you were a real community resource, not just handing stuff out, but really being there for people, and acting as a go-between between people who had things that they needed and didn't know where to go, where to turn. There were young people out there with nothing but the pajamas and the socks. And then also the word got out right away quickly that people could donate gift cards and who helped organize that. So I really appreciate that. And then right after that, the next day, the Other Fellow First Foundation, thank you, Jordan, and you and Brett Gare, I know are the partners, I appreciate that, and Jimmy Cabarrus. Their mission is to very quickly, on a dime, be able to respond to anything that a member of our community needs in a hardship situation. So without a lot of falderall, without a lot of details and have to go through issues, they have this streamlined system, and they were quickly able to raise close to $20,000 from the community for gift cards that the folks who were coming to you designated that they needed. And then also the Other Fellow First Foundation donated $6,000 of money that they had already in their coffers from donations that members of our community that they really made to various funding organizations. So I want to thank both of you, your organizations, for the strong work, and just makes people feel that we care about them.
Well, let's continue with the Committed Pig. So obviously that day was a very, very cold night. And logistically for us to deal with 12 to 15 families coming at us on a cold night is a really big issue we have, and it's a big task that we usually develop very quickly. The ability for the committee to open up their doors was a huge help for our department on having shelters for these families. So they opened their doors up, they closed business for the day. They provided not only food for them, they provided a place for the Red Cross to gather and give all the needs. We also provided hourly updates to the people that were affected by the fire. So it's a great help. We appreciate you doing that. Also, the Red Cross was there very quickly. A lot of people lost everything in the fire, very devastating, clothes, money. They were able to come by and give them some little bit of financial help early on, and also some resources for the stay. Summit Hotel housed a lot of the families for a couple of nights and also fed them as well. So very quickly, knowing they have shelter, they're very good release a lot of these families. They very quickly put into action. It can be done. Vito's Organic Grill as well. There you go. Yeah. There you go. Sorry. And Rocco also, they came over and assisted as well. They opened their doors up as well to help the families go through as well. I think everybody, that's everybody. On behalf of the fire department, I'd like to thank everybody. Other than this event, like you said, we respond to almost 100 fires a year. This group is always around to help us out when we need it. Not only us, the community, so it's a great resource. They're there every day, it goes unnoticed, but it's going to thank you. We have some of the fire department, no speak for the council. We're always being there for this in the summer, some fire department. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your other people to come as well. So, thank you very much. Have your wives stand. There you go. Thank you. Jordan, thank you. Appreciate it.
No, it doesn't work. Only good.
Red Cross.
Stay up here for a picture. Don't go anywhere.
You guys get a quick little photo out of the picture, right?
Put us all in, Rick.
Absolutely. Now then, we're good. Thank you.
See you later. Bye.
Okay, the members of the Summit First Aid Squad, come on up. So during that night, we had two injuries, nothing serious. We had a lot of people who needed quick medical attention. Squad was very quick to react. They come up, just did first aid, transport them to the hospital. But they're also a great resource for our firefighters. Hot temperatures, cold temperatures, our firemen get exhausted very quickly. You'd have rehab units that come in, so the squad was very quickly to set up, recognizing the cold temperatures. They get the rehab unit, provided us with not only some oxygen that was needed, rehab drinks, hot liquids. They do that throughout the year. So this part especially very critical to get those resources in very quickly. Like I said, they're all volunteers. They do a standing job at this fire and also throughout the year. We're always coming in day or night, holidays, whatever the time is. We're always quickly to assemble and support for the fire department. We'd like to thank them on behalf of the fire department for your efforts at that night and also for throughout the year. We appreciate it. Thank you. I can have the Summit Fire Department award recipients come on up. Yes, you're up, sir. Yeah, please, Rudy, come on up. So the firemen and police officers up here tonight, they were the on-duty platoon that worked that shift on 31st of December. 6 firemen, Battalion Chief Evers, with the title Lieutenant Jimmy Fellow, firefighter Inella, firefighter Esposito, firefighter Davis, and firefighter Nichols. They all worked that night. The call came in. They responded to the fire in a little under 4 minutes. They were confronted with the monumental task of a 4-story, fully occupied apartment building at 3 hours in the morning. So, talked earlier about pre-planning. This is a perfect example on how our pre-planning of buildings like this pays off greatly when we confront with these kind of fires. We hope it never happen. When they do, these guys sprang into action under Battalion Chief Evers' command. He quickly recognized that life rescue was a critical task, had to accomplish very quickly, and assigned his guys accordingly. So, with that, I'm going to ask Mayor Radis to give us a little bit of a narrative on the events that transpired tonight.
In the early morning hours of Sunday, December 31st, 2017, with temperatures far below freezing, the City of Summit Fire Department received an emergency call at 5 a.m. for a reported outside fire against a building. Fewer than 4 minutes later, 6 Summit firefighters arrived on the scene and were met with the 30-foot flames coming from the structure. The incident commander, Battalion Chief Clint Evers, quickly established command and reported that the fire had spread rapidly to all floors of the 3-story occupied building, with multiple occupants trapped at 2nd and 3rd floor windows. Rapidly assessing the magnitude of the situation, the incident commander ordered his crew to immediately begin rescue operations and ordered additional firefighter resources to the scene. As firefighters Jim Pignatello, Gabe Ionella, Brian Tavis, Chris Esposito, and Dwight Nichols began rescue operations, 3 occupants were forced to jump from 2nd floor apartment windows due to the intensity of heat and smoke in the building. 1 firefighter initiated patient care for the jumping victims, while the remaining firefighters focused their attention on the 2 other trapped occupants, one at a 2nd floor window and one on the 3rd floor. The occupant in the 3rd floor window was threatening to jump as heavy smoke was starting to surround him. Firefighters successfully calmed the occupant, raised a ground ladder, and safely rescued him from the building window. The firefighters, with the assistance of police officer Rudy Garita, then repositioned the ground ladder and safely rescued an occupant from a 2nd floor apartment window. Within 30 seconds of saving the 2 occupants, both windows became heavily engulfed in fire. The ability of these firefighters to respond to this fire in less than 4 minutes is a major factor in the successful rescue of trapped occupants in this incident. Their commitment to the Summit Fire Department, Police Department, and the citizens of Summit is acknowledged and greatly appreciated. I am proud of the fact that they have all presented themselves in the highest tradition of emergency services, that is, saving the life of another. Thank you, and congratulations, gentlemen.
On behalf of myself, Chief Evers, and Deputy Gelson, I'd like to congratulate the firemen for doing your job. And award you the highest level of award the firemen give you is the Award of Valor for your actions taken on December 31st, 2017. So, Chief Evers. Firefighter Peter Gentile. Gabe Ionella. Great job. Thank you. Chris Pacino. Firefighter Brent Davis. Firefighter Mike Nichols. Thank you.
This you have to put on your desk.
I'd especially like to thank Mark DeGrody for his efforts. It's not always called upon a police officer to help a fireman out, and he very quickly sprang into action without even being asked, assisted our guys in putting up a ladder that ultimately saved the life of the last resident base. So on behalf of the fire department, thank you, appreciate it. Congratulations. Thank you again, everybody, coming out. Appreciate it.
Take a 2-minute break. Let them leave.
Then rescue that.
We will take a 2-minute break to let people leave, and then we can recommence, okay, for those who want to leave. But otherwise, you can stay. There's presentations, more meeting to go on.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff.
We'll go back on session. We have 3 presentations tonight, the first of which is from the Summit Free Market. Chris Lee Joy, the Free Market Adult Mentor, and Emily Pommier, the Free Market Student Chair, are here to present an update. Come on up.
Hello everyone, thanks for letting me speak today about something I'm really passionate about, the free market. First I'll give oh, my bad.
No, I'm sorry, I moved it.
Okay, so I'm just going to start with this lovely presentation that you can see on the screens, just to give you some background about the free market. So as it says, it's student-run, community-focused, so students like me who volunteer and who also help organize the free market, we get a chance to really get involved in the community, and then the community also reaps the benefits by being able to donate and take home items, and I'll explain more about that. So what we do is we provide a location for 2 Saturdays in the spring and 2 in the fall where Summit residents can share reusable items. So they just bring in things they want to donate, and they can take for free anything that they want to keep. So this enables residents to avoid waste by facilitating the exchange of household items. And you can see in the pictures, we take anything from really big pieces of furniture to mugs and other kitchenware to paintings. So there's a really large variety. There's toys, which a lot of kids can enjoy. And then we also maintain an online presence, so I help run the Facebook. I created an Instagram account to post cute pictures to get more volunteers. And we built a database for more than 8,000 participants who've attended the free market. So as I said before, it's student-run. Volunteers like me help to organize the tables and help people carry things in and out and help the market run smoothly. And it's student-led because there's a leadership team, which I'm a part of, and other Summit High School students to help organize the free market and help plan it in advance. And of course, it's supported by adult volunteers like Mrs. Leah Joy.
And Mrs. Fox.
Oh, yeah.
And Assemblywoman Nancy Munoz has helped us.
And for the past 10 years, we also have the LCJSMS students as well as the high school students who've supported the free market with enthusiasm, as I have. So the impact on the community is obviously we foster environmentally friendly practices of recycling. To date, we've kept over 100 tons of reusable items out of the waste stream, which to me is a pretty impressive number. But we also provide residents in need with home goods, like as I said, furniture like these chairs or kitchenware, even decoration. So we have such a variety that people love to shop here, except that it's free. So, you know, we have a lot of happy people. This is one of my favorite pictures of the pickup truck full of items that one family took home. You see a lot of that at the flea market. So the next steps, really why we're here is there's strong community support that we should have a designated building and that we should have this on a monthly basis. So we've heard a lot of people saying that they want to have this every month because while twice a year is already great, people have a lot of things to bring in. So if we had it once a month, I think that we'd have a lot more recycled materials, which would save the city a lot of money, as well as allowing people to take home more goods. And of course, our upcoming events are Saturday, April 28th and Saturday, May 5th. So come hit us up at the transfer station and join us at the free market. That's all. So I just have a couple comments to add, if that's okay. So I already explained how it works, but if I could just talk a little bit about what it means to me as a volunteer. I can attest to the good feelings that you get out of helping the community, as well as seeing well-loved goods find a new home in like a cheesy way that sort of warms my heart. But it also means something that it's a student initiative, so not only is it an opportunity for us to give back to the community, but it's an even better chance for student involvement, which I think is really important. But as a Summit citizen, you also get to have meaningful interactions with community members that you might not otherwise talk to, which I can definitely attest to because I wouldn't have interacted with a lot of the people there without the free market. And you also just get to see kids playing with their new treasures and families piling their pickup trucks with items. And you get to really watch community coming together, and having this feeling of unity really, I think, gives you a sense of fulfillment. And I think that a lot of the community members that go to the free market get some of this sense too. So I just think that because of that, it's something that everyone can benefit from sort of on a meaningful level. But I could go on about the benefits of the free market, but I'm sure you're convinced that it's a wonderful place. So I'm just going to remind you that it's unfortunate that it only happens twice a year, but with this building, we'd be able to have it once a month. We could also open it up to kind of provide items to relieve from crises like fires, or we could just provide household items for recent high school graduates. So clearly this would benefit the whole community even more if we were able to hold it more often. It would also mean more recycling, which not only means helping the environment, but also saves a lot of money for the city. So we keep 8 to 10 tons of waste out of landfills each year, which saves a lot of money in tipping fees. And as we said, we've kept over 100 tons over the past 10 years. Which has helped the environment a lot and has saved a lot of money for the city. So please, for our 10th anniversary, give this gift not only to us, but to your community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emily. Chris?
The biggest value to me is the students that we have had over these 10 years, and also the families that we've helped and the people that come together. So I just am looking forward to expanding on what we've done. So thank you.
Thank you. As I've always said about this project, it's a win-win-win, right? It's a win for the environment, it's a win for taxpayers because it reduces the amount that we have to pay for tipping fees, and it's a win for the community because we're helping folks who are also our own folks in Summit with stuff that they actually need. And so it's one of these great things that we do. And of course, later on tonight, we will be voting on a resolution to approve an agreement between the Conservancy and the city in order to hopefully move forward with a permanent free market building. So the 28th and the 5th are the next free market dates. It starts at 8 a.m.
8 to
8 to 3 p.m. So, and I know that line becomes long as soon as those doors open. There are people out there. So thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Emily, for your presentation. And we would also be remiss if we did not mention Amy Cairns, the city's communications director, who is intimately involved and works extremely hard in the free market, and is also an adult mentor. Okay, moving on to our second presentation, we're going to have the Technology Advisory Committee report done by our chair, Jordan Green.
Trying to create space. Good evening. This is my 10th year on the Technology Advisory Committee, which I actually founded with Mayor Dixon in the past, 10 years ago. I can't believe it hasn't been that long already. And my 9th year serving as chairman. Our charge is pretty straightforward. It's just to help the city solve technology challenges and evaluate new technology opportunities when they show up. And on the flip side, be able to bring new ideas from the private sector in terms of concepts and policies from different walks of life for the city. I can tell you we currently have our strongest group of members that we've had to date, and that's true for all the years, and that's not discounting anybody from the past. We just hit a pretty good core group right now. I was particularly proud to hear Mayor Radis mention so many of our initiatives during her State of the City address, and I am proud to announce that we now have our first spin-off with the City of Westfield, now starting their own Technology Advisory Committee modeled after ours. Tonight, I want to give you some insights as to the several initiatives and challenges that we're working on, as well as a bunch of solutions that we've developed. So with that, let's start with a video.
Hey, do you want me to pick anything up?
You know what? I'll leave Mazzonis. I don't care.
Hey, all right.
Love you.
I love you.
Mommy, I forgot my crystal bracelet.
It's okay, sweetheart. It'll still be there when we get back. Everyone loves the picture I posted of you.
All right. Kind of looked like the corner of Pine Grove and Blackbird, didn't it? Distracted driving is become the drunk driving of this generation, and arguably even worse. It can happen at any time of day and done by anybody over the age of 16. We've worked with Chief Weck for several years now, and he's done a great job of educating and enforcing on this topic. However, we need to further support his efforts in order to do more. So, the first current, easily implementable initiative that we developed, we call it Bluetooth by Parking Services. Really straightforward, kind of like when everybody had their first baby, you didn't know how to put that car seat into the car, so you went to the fire department in some towns, and sometimes you went to the police department. Well, here we'll be going to you'll be able to schedule time with parking services to have them hook up your phone to your car. Very straightforward, very easy. They'll handle, obviously once you have your phone paired to your car, it can handle calls, which putting a phone to your ear to make a phone call, that's been illegal for 20 years now. So anytime you see somebody doing that, they should just really know better. But you can also start doing more advanced functionality now as well through Bluetooth. People are changing cars and phones enough that expecting just the dealers to be able to be the ones to hook it up just is not realistic. So this is something that we can do at any time. It can be done every week. Our committee will work with the parking services group. We're going to give them a booklet as well as some training on how to do this for just about any type of car. So anybody can just make schedule time, go in, and they'll hook you up. This is a relative no-brainer to help out our police department and increase safety, if even marginally so. Here are a couple stats just for keeping score at home for distracted driving. 70% of people engage in smartphone activities while driving. 4 in 10 drivers will use some kind of social media while behind the wheel. Writing an average text message takes about 5 seconds, and at an average speed of 30 miles an hour, that means you can cover the length of a football field. And 49% of commuters admit to texting while driving. 10% plus of all fatalities are now directly traced to distracted driving. And that doesn't even include the ones that just didn't get caught. And yet, antithetically, 95% of drivers disapprove of distracted driving, but the math shows that they're still doing it. My personal favorite is that 10% of drivers believe that they can safely video chat while driving. I've worked in the mobile industry for 20 years, and I can tell you that there are more distractions coming, and in some ways they're getting worse. Someone is not immune to these statistics, and it's only a matter of time till this hits our streets, or more accurately, until a 5'3" mother in a 19-foot Suburban who just had to make that Facebook post hits and kills an 8-year-old kid on Springfield Avenue. We have a chance to do the right thing now. Or to put it another way, do you want to be the city council that lets this happen on your watch? Our committee has been trying to make this a city council priority for several years now. Last March, we provided a detailed issue briefing and a no phone touching policy, which was proven out by the state of California, to 2 city council members, and yet nothing of substance came from it. We must do a whole lot more. It will be a lot cheaper to act proactively today as opposed to acting responsibly after our first fatality. The committee believes we can start by doing this with a local marketing campaign. And we'd ask the council to allocate a budget of $5,000 with which to do so. Don't worry, this isn't going to require any new budget. I'll explain a little bit later how we're going to get to that money. The second initiative is just working on larger stuff with parking services. We're working with Rita and her team to evaluate new options and technologies. Right now, that is basically on data mining and marketing programs to help them get more from the programs that are currently running. So 3 easy examples. We're helping them maximize the benefits that they're getting out of the appropriated Lyft program spots already. Leveraging more opportunities from Park Mobile to increase revenue for the city and as well as profitability. And helping evaluate a new data visualization system that she's currently being pitched. Our committee believes that the solutions to the problems that we're seeing regarding parking in this town will be solved with technology and better understanding of our data. We'll stop here for 2 seconds. Questions, thoughts?
We're listening to you, Jordan. Go
It's okay,
ahead.
I'll keep going.
We'll get questions. We'll get questions at the end, I'm sure.
All right. All right, now let's switch over to Hometown TV. Our committee spent a lot of time discussing Hometown TV. We firmly believe that the city should terminate the $85,000 a year agreement with them. It is not the responsibility of some taxpayers to keep this entity afloat. And the deficient level of the quality almost suggests we should receive some refunds. That said, the city has definitive needs for more video and improved communications. So the Hometown TV approach is just antiquated, and it can easily be replaced with modern day technologies. Case in point, tonight we've been Facebook Living this entire conference. That's what that little thing is over there. What this lets us do is we can set this out over social media. People can watch it on virtually any type of device. We can get real live statistics as well as who watched it after the fact. This is stuff we would never been able to get with Hometown TV. Taking the budget away and providing it back to the city's communications group will leave the city with much better end products, a much stronger communication strategy, and save money. That's kind of hard to beat. Plus, it will fund your new $5,000 budget for distracted driving reduction. And finally tonight, we're pleased to announce the first Summit Tech Innovation Awards. These will be initial 6 categories. We'll recognize and promote the technology developments and investments made by local businesses, global businesses locally, residents, and departments of the city itself. It's time that the city starts to be recognized as a technologically advanced town that it is. But there's more to come on that. I know it's a lot that I just threw at you, but we've got a lot that we're working on, and I tried to keep it short. So now I'll take any questions you got.
Council members. Mayor, Marjorie.
Yes, you mentioned a no phone touching policy, and I'm wondering what that is and also what you're proposing as far as a distracted driving campaign.
Well, the distracting driving campaign itself is going to be it would be a marketing initiative gone locally, both digitally as well as using traditional media. I think what goes in it can be incredibly similar to the same type of campaign that was used for recycling campaigns. People weren't just going to recycle on their own. They needed pushes in order to be able to do so. The No Touch campaign was actually launched on January 1st, 2017 in California, and it literally does not allow a driver of a car to touch a phone with more than a pointer finger. There's got to be a point in time when we have to make a move that's going to do something that is more drastic. And we can't, I hate to say it, we kind of have to save people from themselves for the short term.
Anything else for questions? Go ahead.
What initiatives do you see your committee focusing on in the next year? Where are you going to be focusing your attention?
Well, we have the handful of stuff that I stuck in here. We have a lot of parking things. Parking things come up all the time, and Rita's been a tremendously great partner for us to work with. The other things that have come up, we've started going back to a database system that we talked about multiple years ago, and I appreciate that Councilman Gould brought this back up again. The idea that we have such disparate data that's all over the city, bringing it back together in some way, we can do a lot more stuff with that. A lot of things that do show up ad hoc, which is, to be honest, a lot of fun. But it is a big priority for us to try to help the communications group more than anything else continue to step forward. They are dramatically under budgeted. The fact that it's 1.5 people that's running as much as it is, they have to get more content out constantly, and they need more video capabilities specifically, just the ability to cut stuff up, put it out into a social environment, because that's kind of how this content is consumed now.
I just have to say, this is amazing, all this information and technology and everything, but I'm just going to say that I think that the communications office does a pretty damn good job.
I absolutely agree with you.
So, and I don't, when you say create and provide content, that's not just someone in the communications office. Someone has to be there, being the person in the video, creating the content. So it's a bigger issue than just having more bodies or more people in communications.
No dispute for me. I would say that they need more functionality. There's stuff that they're starting to turn out. If you've noticed what their social media presence looks like today versus a year ago, it's dramatically better. I think that you've actually been a pretty good star for a lot of their videos, so that kind of helps.
Well, that's aside. I mean, I think that the two people that work there work really hard.
I think it is too, but the more content that they are overworked in a lot of different ways, and if we can give them a little bit more leeway, I think it would go in a great distance trying to help with what we're going to need, especially going forward.
And then I have a question about these awards. So has anyone, who are these awards coming from, and has anyone approved them on the city level?
We haven't got that far.
Okay, so this is just an idea.
No,
it's not a fait accompli.
I'm sorry?
It's not a fait accompli, but it's an idea.
It isn't. This is, in so many ways, a layup. There's so much good investment that's going on in this town that goes unrecognized.
Right.
And the ability to put it out on a public stage helps market our town as a whole.
Right.
I just wanted to be clear. I don't think this council or anybody in city staff or the police don't take the idea of safety seriously. Right, so there shouldn't be any implication left that we would wait to see whether or not somebody gets injured or hurt on Springfield Avenue before we do something. That's certain. Let me just finish.
Sure.
Right. So I don't think that anybody should be unclear about the fact that we would take whatever initiatives are possible, regardless of the cost, if we thought that they were effective in achieving it, based upon getting the advice of professionals as to what can and cannot be done. So that being said, I think what I hear is a fair amount of integration between what you guys are doing at the Technology Advisory Committee and the Parking Authority. And certainly, I think one of the benefits of having the Technology Advisory Committee is particularly in the area of parking, because we've been trying to avoid having to construct a large-scale garage and use technology to our benefit. So I'm glad to hear that we're working and trying to enhance the lift capability, that we're trying to use Park Mobile and whatever other means. I would ask you guys to look at whether or not, there is, like in New York City, there's Chariot, which seems to be like a minivan or a jitney service. Look into that, see if there's a public-private partnership that's possible with respect to that. But one of the other things that I want also, I would think that the Technology Advisory Committee could help on or be useful with, is we're going to be looking more at economic development. And I wouldn't say that you should, there's ways of getting to a smart city and using technology towards the smart city that I think would be beneficial. With respect to hometown TV, that's an issue that's being currently thought through in council. We all recognize the costs associated with it. We also recognize that there's a segment of the population that gets the benefit of seeing hometown television. And it's a balancing act for us, because one of the things that you don't want to do is deprive that segment of the population that may otherwise not have access, and don't use Facebook, and don't do live streaming, and don't get on the computer, but simply turn on the old-fashioned TV, turn on the channel, and look at it, and get information. that they shouldn't be deprived of having the transparency of their government displayed to them and to understand what's going on. And so while we understand the costs associated with it, it's something that we are discussing internally, and we'll figure out how that goes. But we appreciate the fact that you guys did look very carefully at that agreement and came up with some suggestions and ideas, and something that through your council liaison, certainly it's an issue that's still live, still under consideration, and we'll give it further thought.
We're the only town that pays full dues to Hometown TV. We paid them $85,000. That's half of their operating budget. Okay, actually, they don't have an operating budget. We just see financials after the fact. We can play this all the time. How about this? If we just went to a la carte like everybody else, what's wrong with that? I don't disagree with you. If you want to be able to program on regular television, that's fine. And we're not necessarily, by the way, against that, just not this cost structure.
Jordan, I assure you, we are considering exactly these same set of issues, but we understand also that this was an issue that was raised by the Technology Advisory Committee last year. It was among the things that you guys had raised last year.
This March, David, I'm sorry, Council President, yes, we're going real slowly, and it's drip, drip, drip of taxpayer money. We could just use it for so much better stuff.
This is a different council. This is different. We're looking at it differently. We'll think about it differently. We're looking at it, but we understand what the issue is. I just wanted to clarify that for the public who's hearing this, just in case people are thinking, oh, they don't know about this issue. No, we know about it. We're thinking about it. We're looking at it carefully. We have to make a determination about it, how we proceed. Anybody else have comments or questions? Matt?
Thank you, Council President. And Jordan, I just want to say we also recognize the work that Hometown TV is doing, and we don't want to suggest that the people there are not working hard and trying to make a difference. You definitely brought up issues for us. We've been working through the issues a lot, more than you know probably, and but I just don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, can we talk about the bathwater then as a whole?
Jordan.
We cannot. I just want to.
Okay, I'm not going to go too much out, but try this. It is the content that we're producing as a whole that goes out there into the world. That's a marketing effort for this town, and you should make sure that stands on par with what you would want the town to be represented as.
No, we appreciate that, Jordan. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Jordan, and thank the members of your committee.
Thank you.
Next up is the Department of Community Services Director Paul Cascades and Jen Blaze to talk about Spatial Data Logic, which is the software that is being used by the city for its online permitting system.
Okay, so thank you, Council President and members of the governing body for allowing, can you hear? Allowing me to update the governing body on our software launch, Code and Construction software launch, that we launched on January 1st of this year, both internally and our external portal. So, quick overview of DCS. As you know, we like to characterize it as a one-stop shop. We're comprised of 3 divisions, which is our land use, our public works, and our engineering. We received a lot of compliments. It's a very different structure. This is a very different structure in most of the local governments in New Jersey. We're one of the few. Most other communities, they have separate locations for a lot of these and separate departments. So our customers, it's more of a customer service oriented structure for us. It's under one roof, so we are the first point of contact for our new residents or any residents, and it's under one roof so they can come, and our staff are all cross-trained in the various aspects of the different divisions. We get a lot of compliments from contractors and clients that do come up to our department saying that it is very user-friendly and more customer service-oriented. So, moving forward, one of the reasons why we explored new software in code and construction, we were receiving over a period of time complaints about basically the timeline permits were being issued. So, and also more transparency. The software that we decided to move forward with, which is Spatial Data Logic, which we commonly refer to as SDL, offers an online portal for our customers, our residents, our applicants, contractors, to be able to go online. It offers more transparency. Before I go forward, though, I want to make sure that everyone knows that this process was a long process. This started in the first quarter of 2016. We did a lot of research to make sure that this was a software that we wanted for Summit. Summit is very unique, and we do extensive research before we implement. So some of the misconceptions that we were seeing, and SDL will be able to address with the online portal through transparency, is the 10 and 20 day review process. So statutorily, we are required to review zoning reviews within 10 days, and our subcodes, construction and code, within 20. One of the misconceptions, though, that we've experienced, and maybe a perception as well, is when an applicant comes forward with a permit application, they believe within 30 days they should see either an approval or a denial. What we typically see is a lot of applications that come in are incomplete. Once it's first sent to zoning for review to make sure it conforms to our zoning ordinance, and if it requires a variance, it's then sent over to a land use board. If it doesn't require a variance, it's moved forward to the construction office. In the event there's any, if we require modifications or additional information, that timeline begins again. So it's not automatically when a applicant comes forward, drops an application off at the counter, within 30 days they're going to see an approval or a denial. So that's some of the misconceptions we see out there. There are times where a lot of applications may go back and forth, and it may take months for an approval for a permit. One of the things that we always look to improve our customer service experience at DCS. We've actually installed a mural and just identifying who we are and what we do. We also have a television monitor in the lobby area, which we will be producing small, short educational videos, and how processes work within our department, how to apply for a permit, a grading permit, so on and so forth. We've increased our computers at the counter to be able to serve, have our staff, 2 staff members serve the public at one time. SDL will modernize our public experience. It will allow for the public to no longer have to come to the counter to look and see where their application is in the process. It'll be at their fingertips. They'll be able to use their iPhone, computer, and be able to see where they are in the process. So, I know I provided council, the governing body, with a memo that has more detail on how we got to where we are today. As I mentioned, this started in the first quarter of 2016. It did take some time. We did research. We interviewed 10 municipalities that implemented SDL and had it in place for over 5 years. All of those municipalities were happy with the results. Out of the 10, 2 of them had the online portal and did share that their customers and their residents were very happy with the use of the online portal. We also interviewed 2 of the divisions at the state level to make sure that what we were looking to do, we were able to do. The state of New Jersey actually regulates what is required to be sent to them through the software. There are about 13 approved softwares that the state recognizes. Only 3 of those softwares provide the online portal for applicants to use remotely. So we did look at the other various software vendors, and we found that SDL was the application for Summit. I can say that it was a long process, as I mentioned, but I can tell you it was very successful. And only because of our staff embracing the change. We had a legacy system that was in place for about 27 years, and it was a big change. It was one of the larger changes for the city as far as software. And also the good communication and relationship we had with folks at SDL. And I must mention that today with me, and also that will be presenting, is Jim Blades, the Assistant Director of the Department of Community Services. And with us is also the President of SDL, Jack Flood, and also Tom Hurley, who represents SDL. So if there are any questions regarding the software, they're here to answer any questions. Some of the challenges we have going forward. State of New Jersey does not permit digital online plans at this time. There are states that do. It's been successful. New Jersey is not there yet. They do have a pilot program. They're working within the state where they're accepting digital plans in their own, at the state level through their own construction projects. They want to work out some of the kinks, and when they've shared with us, once that is done, they'll open it to other forms, to the other government agencies, which will be then county governments and local governments. Being that we do have SDL, we will be ready at that time. SDL does have the ability to be able to accept online digital. So Summit will be ready once the state does approve it. So in the 12 weeks that we've implemented it, we've had about 100 or so online users, which we're hoping that that continues to move forward. This will help realtors. It'll help folks not having to come to City Hall on a daily basis to see or ask questions regarding their permits. Realtors especially that look for certain information when they go to sell a home or list a home, this is very valuable to them. So we're going to be working with them shortly to make sure they're on board with it to reduce the amount of trips they have to make to City Hall. So at this time, I want to turn it over to Jim Blades, who will now talk about the 3 access levels of the software and give you a snapshot of what you will see if you do go online.
Good evening. Like Paul mentioned, the portal has 3 levels of access: staff, the active applicant, and then the public version. Tonight I'm going to show you 2 of them, because the staff version we're privy to cell phones and so on and so forth, and we're not going to do that in this space. But again, like Paul mentioned, the SDL portal is really helping the staff to have a clear line of communications with the public, with the applicant, the GC, whoever's involved in the application process. It increases transparency, and everyone's on the same page. And like Paul mentioned as well, for realtors who need to know any active or open app permits on their property, instead of coming to City Hall, they can, or call in, they can check online Sunday night at 2 a.m. to see what's going on with their property, and it just gives more information to the public at any point in time. So the portal is sdlportal.com. It's also accessible through our website. When you log in, if you do not have an account, where my mouse is right now, you can create an account. It's a 1-page or 1-screen, create your account, very simple to walk through it. We're not going to do it at this stage. But once you do have an account, this would be the home page, and it welcomes you back. If you're a member of the public, for example, a realtor, and you want to know if there are any permits outstanding so you can close on the property and move forward, on the right side, you're going to put in your property in question. So right away, they give you some very basic information about the property. On the left side is the Google Maps side, and on the right side is the street view. So the realtor can see right away that this is the property he or she would like to look at. Again, some basic information about the property. We do redact some of the information for the public site, obviously not for the staff site, just for privacy purposes. If you were a realtor, the thing that you're the most concerned about are permit applications. What's open, what's closed, so you can move forward in the process. And this is where you're going to see that. Now, so you go through the permit applications, anything that's open, you can click on View and get more details of what you need to do to move forward. You can also look at inspections. If you already know you have an open application, the permit's been issued, but you have to close it, you can click on the inspections and see where you stand as a realtor, what your GC need to do to move forward in the process. So again, that's the public view. Now, if you had an active application open, once a permit is issued, it's publicly accessible to Oprah, so on and so forth. But if it's an active pending application, there are some areas that are not actively open to the public. So what you do is when you come to City Hall, you get a control number when you put in your application. And you are supposed to give us an email, and you can give us as many emails as you want, your attorney, your GC, your architect. So that way, we can put it in the system, and every time there's an update, everyone gets the same email with the same amount of information. So if you were to go online, so that security level of having a control number, you would put that on the left side of the screen. Again, that's not accessible to the public. You have to have the control number. And this is what you're going to see. So SDL, it's almost like tracking a FedEx package. You can just visually see from point A to point Z where you stand in the process. At the top, it'll just give you a summary. This is an alteration. It happens to be an alteration. It's ready for pickup, so that's why we are accessing it now. It's an example of an active application. You can see what's passed and what's failed, and when you click on more information, it'll bring you all the way down, and it'll tell you what is happening with each subcode. I'm just scrolling up a little. So kind of in the middle of the screen, you can see the description of what is going on. They happen to have 2 boilers that they need to handle, and basic information about the application. Here, there are no inspections at this time because they just got the permit issued, but as you go through the process, that will populate. That being said, if you don't feel like looking on the portal, when you have the application in and the email, every time you pass, fail, every time that portal is updated, you get the email. Your GC gets the email, and so on and so forth. So that's basically the portal. Where we are now, so we're about 3 months into the process. Our staff have really come a long way in terms of learning everything, because not only, again, like Paul mentioned, they had to go from a legacy system to what we're doing now, but they had to learn the desktop staff version, and then they had to get familiar with the public version. So we kind of opened up everything at one time. So moving forward, what we would like to do in the future, we would like to explore field devices for inspectors. In other words, instead of the inspector coming back into the city and entering in their information, they can do it on-site, live time, and it just increases efficiency. And from what I've heard from other communities, it's actually preferable for the inspectors. They prefer to use a device in the field rather than logging it in. It's easier for them. SDL has been able to we are more accountable through technology, and that's been great through timestamps. We know exactly what's coming in, so on and so forth, and SDL does a lot of improvements to better enhance the public experience in the site. Like Paul mentioned, our next step is to increase our outreach to realtors and the public to really get people involved in using the portal, now that the staff have kind of come up to speed on what they need to learn. Again, SDL portal is on our website, the cityofsummit.org website, and you can access it that way. Before I open for questions, Paul and I would like to thank and recognize our entire team, but very much in particular a woman named Donna Getty, who's a technical assistant, and she was instrumental from the user end standpoint in her feedback. And then lastly, we would like to recognize Gary Lewis, who is our construction official. Without his participation, we would not have been successful.
Thank you, Jen.
Any
Thank you, Paul.
questions?
Questions, comments?
I have two questions. I know it's early and you've only had this for 3 months, but have you seen a decrease in the number of phone calls and kind of routine requests that you're getting at DCS? Are you already seeing that?
So we seem to be the last municipality in our kind of local area that is on SDL portal. So we've had a number of calls where a realtor will call in about whatever standard search they want to do. And we let them know we're now on the portal. And they actually know it better than us sometimes. They're like, oh, I already use it in Melbourne. So never mind, I got my username and password. And you only need one username and password, and you can switch among the different communities so long as they're a client. So we have actually seen people who have been more familiar, especially month one when we were learning it. So they're it's a learning process to educate the people calling in, but we've actually seen a lot of positive feedback, and once they know what we're doing, they're all set to go.
That's great. And my second question is that once this has been up and running for a while, a year, or whatever period of time, does SDL have the ability to run global reports that would give us information in the city as to, how kind of an average of how long inspections are taking or where some of the holdups are in the process, and give us some information and data back that we can evaluate?
Mm-hmm. There are basic reports that we can run, and we are using the software to kind of better identify where we think we can increase our efficiencies. We basically have an idea of what we need to improve and in where, but certainly the portal and the desktop version help us in gathering that data.
Okay, thank you for all your hard work. This is great.
Thanks, Council President. So, first of all, I think this is very exciting. I have more of a comment than a question. I think you buried the lead a little bit. I mean, with all the technical information, this is a huge step forward, I think, for Summit, because when we were out canvassing over the summer, a lot of people would say, we never know what's going on with permits, we don't know, we requested a variance, we don't know what's happening. And I do think that a lot of contractors and workers would take that opportunity to push blame onto our fine city workers who were moving along quickly, and now there's nowhere for them to hide. So it's a major step towards transparency, accountability, and it's a major benefit to our citizens. And I think we just need a good publicity plan to get this out there, because every time somebody wants to do a renovation, they're going to go through this process. They're usually going to be new to it, as you pointed out to me, Jen, and they're not going to know how long things are supposed to take. And when they have this, you say, you can see it right there, and I think that's going to make everyone happy as soon as everyone starts using it.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Michael?
I just want to thank everyone in DCS. This has been a big process, and as you said, not only do you have to learn this and implement it, you still have to do your day job, which is process permits while you go. So it's a big undertaking, and just congratulate you for doing this. It's been something I know you mentioned, Paul, over 2 years coming. And it's great to see. I know we spoke a lot about this over the past couple of years about, the ability to track your permitting process like you can do on a UPS package, et cetera, and this is fantastic. I guess one thing, just a question, would be one of the things that sounds like that is holding this up to make this process even more efficient for the end user, which is our homeowners or people trying to improve their homes, is this tie-up with New Jersey and online, taking online documents and things like that. And it sounds to me like there's a lot of communities now who are using this software, so maybe this is more a question for the gentleman from SDL, but is there some sort of process that we can be engaged in that would help push New Jersey, our friends down in Trenton, to make this a little bit more, 21st century?
No,
Come to the podium,
come up to the
please.
podium.
Sorry.
And please identify yourself.
Hello, my name is Jack Flood. I'm one of the principals of Spatial Data Logic and live in the town next door, and very happy to have you guys on as a client. Your question on trying to get Trenton to move is a question that I think a lot of people have in a lot of different areas. My experience with my communications with the folks in the DCA down the state of New Jersey is they are making progress towards the concept of electronic signatures, and that's the one major stumbling block of accepting that in DCA. The second one is in all of the raised seals and the concept of an electronic seal, that when you're dealing with all the architects groups and then all the engineering groups, they all have to come to that standard and be able to understand that, so that when they get that sealed set of plans, and if you're getting it electronically, that communication comes back and forth. And as you might expect, that's a pretty complicated legal ground that has to be worked out with all those different parties. But all I can say is that, back to the council members and anybody else, is keep pushing, keep asking, keep prodding, send letters, keep stating to your various different folks as you move up the chain to freeholders, to state senators, to even the governor, about the more efficiency that they allow you to do is going to make our ability to extend it back out in the software for your citizens. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jen, I have a question. Or Paul, when people come to the counter with their permit application, what sort of concrete information are they given about how they can track this through the portal? Because it's as recently as last week, I've had people emailing and coming and saying they're still going to the counter, and these are applications that were made in the first quarter. So what are they being told, and can we help and somehow have is there a better communication tool that you think is necessary?
And Paul can expand on this as well. The first quarter, we really did want to get staff fluent in the staff version and the public version. So now that we've gotten to that point, we are going to be working with our we did a very, very brief outreach in January when we launched with our communications office to get the word out. But now we're going to the second phase of that promotion, and when people come to the counter, we let them know. We had some signage out there as well. But unless they are familiar with it, contractors are familiar with it, realtors are, but the general public resident may not be. And so then that's more of a comprehensive walk through everything. And depending if we're 20 people deep at the counter, we're not always able to do that. That said, we have everyone's email information, and we do try and follow up to kind of walk them through the process. But we need to do a better job in terms of general outreach and being comprehensive.
Right, like a handout with them when they're at the counter and they're making an application. Just something to just...
We have a handout that we had, and we had it posted at the counter. It's basically the website. A general marketing piece on here's where you go to log in, create an account, and so on and so forth. Perhaps if they did not get it, perhaps we ran out. But certainly, to your point, that's good to know.
Thank you.
And also, Mayor, if I can add, we take the opportunity now too. We receive a lot of electronic OPRA requests, number of them. Our department has to respond to weekly. We respond to those, provide them with the information, but we also we'll share the link to SDL where they can actually go forward and go through SDL if they like to get that information, because most of it is through realtors, the OPRA requests. So we're sharing that with them where they don't even have to submit an OPRA to us. They can go right to the SDL portal, open an online account, and be able to obtain that information.
Thank you, and I'd be remiss if I didn't add my thanks, because I know how hard you guys have been working, and I've seen all the hours of training, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Mary.
I also want to congratulate you. I know it's been a long time coming, and yay, we're here today to celebrate this. But just the data input, that will be your office exclusively inputting, and contractors can input data. So is that the only two? Because who else can input data, and who oversees that?
It's our office that inputs the data.
Okay.
So all the data gets input.
And contractors?
No. No contractors.
No contractors?
No.
Oh, I misunderstood
No.
that. All right.
They're able to open an online portal and just visually see where the application is in the process.
Okay.
So we do all the importing of the information.
Okay. All right, I misunderstood.
And-
I thought
and-
you said,
Right.
right, okay.
And we also, I have to recognize SDL for the good work they did for Summit, because it wasn't just a out-of-the-box software. They spent many hours customizing the software to Summit's needs, which was very different for them. Most of the communities they work with, they can go in, install SDL, and be up and running. Our needs, we worked off of another legacy system. There was information there. All of that was downloaded to this system, so we didn't lose anything. But there was also some customizing that we wanted done to meet our functionality in our process. And as Jen had mentioned, I have to recognize the staff who really embraced it, including our division heads who really pushed it forward and made this happen, and the support of the governing body to move it forward.
Anybody else? Hold on a second, Jack. Let me, okay, come on. Let's have just for public comments, and then I'll close it out. Is there any other, by the way, before, if there's any other public questions or comments, just raise your hand.
I'd just like to make a comment. My name is Jack Kelly. I'm an architect here in town from Rose and Kelly Conway. I'm actually here in support of the Summit Free Market project tonight. But I want to just say that the word is getting out. I think someone asked, how does the word get out? It's out. We use it all the time in our office. Our clients are constantly asking us, where is my permit? What's happening with my permit? I called City Hall and I didn't get any information. And so they now have the opportunity to check themselves, and they're telling us, oh, I checked my permit the other day. It looks like we passed electrical and we passed plumbing. Isn't that great? But still, when they're anxious to start their project, but the outflow of information from City Hall to people like myself or people who are excited about getting their renovation project started, it's great. So just as a local architect, I've been here for 30 years practicing architecture in Summit. It's a great improvement. By all means, get it out to the public as fast as you can. It gives people want to know, as someone said about tracking a FedEx package,
Right.
They can track everything, but there's always been this little mystery at City Hall, like what happens when my permit goes to City Hall? Where does it go for 2 months? And so even if it's not ready, at least they can see it, they feel like something is happening. So I think it's great.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me just close it out by thanking Paul, Jen, the entire staff at DCS for their hard work. As Paul or Jen said, I think, and it should not be lost on anybody, that a lot of times what communities do is just do it first internally, and then they go out to the public and do it. We asked these guys to do both of them simultaneously and to get it out, and they were able to do so. And now, as they're saying, they're going to move on to the second phase. We're already hearing that people do know about it. We'll get it more out there. Councilwoman Little raised a really good point, which is with respect to our own internal getting numbers and seeing how things are done, both from an efficiency standpoint, but also just as far as how the process, with the smoothness of the process, is there ways of improving it and so forth. And I think that probably either later this year or hopefully next year again, we'll have a presentation with much more updated data. But that is not to say that this has not been, you know, I remember 2016 when I, Richard Son, and all the folks, Mike and so forth, were involved in this beginning of this process, Mary, to get it off the ground. And now we are here and accomplishing exactly what we thought we could accomplish, which is to get people to know about more information so we don't have that issue of that it's a big black box that people don't know what's going on. And so we're on our road to do that, so thank you very much, and I really appreciate it, and thank you for the presentation. All right, that ends our presentations for tonight, and we're only at 9 o'clock. So that's only and then there's the rest of the agenda. Okay, now, if there are any public comments on matters that are not on the agenda, please come forward and speak. Okay. Seeing none, we will then proceed to ordinances for introduction. Okay. Madam Clerk, well, actually, yes. Could you read the first ordinance for introduction, please?
An ordinance amending Chapter 7 Traffic, Section 7-8 Parking, subsection 7-8.5, parking time limited on certain streets of the Code of the City of Summit.
Councilwoman Ogden.
Yes, thank you, Council President. This ordinance 5632 for introduction is to increase the hourly fee for all 90-minute meters downtown. The last time the city increased our rates was 2006. After two parking studies, the Desmond parking study in 2009 and the 2016 Level G parking, both indicating that we need to increase our rates in prime locations in the downtown. This change will coincide with the installation of the kiosks on the north side of town and will take effect July 1st, 2018. Currently, you get 15 minutes free. You will continue to get that. 30 minutes will be 50 cents, 60 minutes now $1, and 90 minutes $1.50. At this time, I would like to move this ordinance for introduction.
I second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye.
Mr. McTiernan?
Aye.
Ms. Ogden?
Aye.
President Naidu?
Aye. Okay, moving on. We have pulled safety, so the next one is finance and personnel. Madam Clerk, would you please read?
An ordinance amending Chapter 25 Sewage and Wastewaters, Section 25-6 Sewer User Charges of the Code of the City of Summit.
Councilwoman Little.
Thank you, Council President. This ordinance is essentially an ordinance that's going to streamline the procedure for setting the sewage fees each year. Currently, we do it by ordinance, and so we have an ordinance for introduction, as I'm doing now, and then we set an ordinance for hearing, and that's the time that we set the sewer fees. We looked at the statutes, and it was brought to our attention that it does not need to be done by ordinance, it can be done by resolution. And so we've been asked to change it from an ordinance to a resolution so that it will be more efficient and cost effective. So we'll be doing that by resolution. I want to make note that the same information will be presented to the public, the same transparency in the fees, and there will be opportunity for public comment when the resolution is introduced. So this is really just a streamlining of the procedure. And then I would also like to note that it is changing the due date for the fees from September 1st to June 15th, and that is because in the last few years we've run into cash flow issues with our sewer fees, and this will allow for better cash flow and better operation budgets. I'd like to introduce this ordinance for, I'd like to move this ordinance for introduction.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye.
Mr. McTiernan?
Aye.
Ms. Ogden?
Aye.
President Naidu?
Aye. Okay, moving along, buildings and grounds. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance 5616?
An ordinance granting permission to hold a private sale of a portion of the real property on Block 3204, Lot 7, located at 1000 Summit Avenue in the city of Summit, County of Union, New Jersey.
Councilwoman Fox.
Thank you, Council President. Ordinance 5610. This ordinance for introduction will allow the City of Summit to hold a private sale of a piece of property along Summit Avenue starting from the First Aid Squad to Morris Avenue. It extends approximately 175 feet. This property, known as Block 3204, Lot 7, is a panhandle-shaped piece of property, and because it's only 14 feet wide, it's not used for any purpose by the City of Summit, and it must be maintained by the city's Public Works Department. So because it's no longer needed for public use, Council has passed a resolution on September 19th, 2017, allowing the purchasers, Manny and Adriana Costera, to subdivide the city-owned Lot 7. And the Zoning Board has conditioned the approval of the construction of two-family homes on Lots 8 and 9 by the Costeras, and that's on Morris Avenue, 248 and 250. Actually, I'm not sure about those numbers. So the construction of two-family homes on Lots 8 and 9 on Morris Avenue by the Costeras, though the approval is conditioned on the purchase of this property, of this portion of Lot 7. I hereby move this ordinance for introduction.
Second.
So we're clear, the hearing date for this ordinance will be May 1st, 2018. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Ms. Little? Aye. Mr. McTiernan?
Aye.
Ms. Ogden?
Aye.
President Naidu?
Aye. Okay. Moving along now, we're to resolutions. The first one is Buildings and Grounds 5660. Before we consider this resolution, I am going to recuse myself from this discussion. This is the authorization for the construction and use agreement between the City of Summit and the Summit Conservancy. I was one of the founders of the Summit Conservancy, and I have been involved in my capacity is a member of the Summit Conservancy in discussions with the city concerning this building and this agreement. I do not have any financial stake at all in this project. Quite the contrary, I've given money to the project. But that being said, I don't want anybody to think there's any pressure because I'm here. I do want to say that this is a project that is near and dear to my heart. We started back in 2014 with this, and not because of anything due to the city, but because we had to deal with the county and because we had to deal with Green Acres and so forth. We ended up having to be able to discuss it, this agreement only now. But this has been something that's been looked at by the Planning Board, and I thank them for doing it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Council President Pro Tem Matt Gould to lead us. You stay here.
Okay, buckle up. Okay, Councilwoman Fox, can you talk to us about this?
Sure. Thank you, Council President Gould. Buildings and Grounds Resolution 5660 is to authorize the execution of a construction and use agreement between the City of Summit and the Summit Conservancy for the construction of a free market building at the Summit Transfer Station. This resolution authorizes the execution of an agreement between the city and the Summit Conservancy for the construction of a free market building at the transfer station. The Conservancy has fundraised and has offered to construct the free market building. This agreement establishes the process and the responsibilities of both parties to the agreement. The Conservancy has raised funds for this project through public donations and as well as a grant that the city received in the amount of $10,000 from Sustainable Jersey for this project. This project has the strong support of Summit residents and, as you heard earlier, from the Free Market Committee as well. And there are a lot of residents who have asked for a free market more than the 4 weekends a year that it's currently held. And this project will allow us to do exactly that. It will also provide a space potentially for environmental education activities close by the Passaic River trails. For these reasons, I enthusiastically move this resolution.
Second.
Okay, do I hear any comments from council about this resolution? Councilwoman Little.
I just want to say I enthusiastically support this as well. I have volunteered at the flea market with my children over the years, and just to reiterate what Emily Palmier said earlier, it's really a almost joyful experience to see the community come together in so many different ways. All the volunteers helping out, all the Summit residents bringing things to the free market, other Summit residents excitedly greeting the people who are coming with their goods and searching through things. It's just a really wonderful day, and to have it once a month instead of twice a year would be just a real benefit for the community, and as Council President said earlier, a win-win-win. So I would, definitely support this. I think it's a wonderful project, and I'm excited to see it move forward. And if anyone in the community wants a great volunteer experience, I would highly recommend putting some time in at the free market. It's a really wonderful and rewarding experience.
Thank you, Councilwoman Little. Any other? Yes, Councilwoman Ogden.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. I also support this. I think it's wonderful. Here's the thing. I have an entire garage full of things that I need to get down there. And what I'd love to see, if it's at all possible, is to get the truck that we use to pick up things to help us, like I have a dining room table, to get it there. And so if we could call up to get a truck, or if there's any way that we can, I don't even know if that's a possibility, but you know how we have curbside pickup, and maybe the day of, or once a month, or once a quarter, you can get a truck, because it's big and I can't put it in my car. So I do. I have a lot of things to go down there, and I'd love to get them down there, but it need a little help. So anyway.
Thanks, Councilwoman Ogden. Good idea. In fact, Mr. Cascades, could you tell us if that's possible?
Sure. Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. So I think you brought up a good point, Councilwoman. I think what we can do is we can look at, once it's built, we can look at our own process and see how we can streamline our collection as well. We do have our dial-a truck service that does collect on a as-needed basis where you call in. And I see an opportunity where if it's separated, we could probably, instead of taking it to the blue building, we could take it now to the beautiful free market building. So I think there's a opportunity there to look at our process and change it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay?
Thanks, Mr. Cascade. Any other comments from council? Do I have any comments from the public? Perhaps Mr. Sachs, Mr. Zucker, anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Sachs, Rotary Drive, and you've heard a lot of wonderful things about this project. We at the Summit Conservancy, I'm treasurer of the Summit Conservancy, we've been working on this for 3 or 4 years. I know a lot of people on council have been involved, and city staff and administration. I think it's a really wonderful project. I think you got an excellent feel for all that it accomplishes, the wonderful volunteers that participate in it, the tremendous amount of goods that have been taken out of the waste stream, the ability to get rid of unwanted goods that you have at home, and the ability to take your children there and teach them about recycling and reusing, and then you see the families that come there and receive all these goods and furnish their home, or children who come and can get new toys. It's really just a wonderful experience. The site is not really being used for much now. It's kind of vacant, empty land, and we're trying very hard to build a building that will be used for something wonderful, and to give that to the City of Summit as a gift to be used for the free market and for other goods. So I just want to say we appreciate all of your support, and we're excited to get going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs.
Even though I was delayed 2 hours, I flew back in time to be here for this. So Adam Zucker, and I would just second everything that's been said in support of this project. It's right around the corner from our house, and I remember the first time that we went to the free market, and it was just a wonderful day overall. We had nothing to give at the time, but we just saw all that was happening, and since then we've donated baby goods and whatnot, and there are a couple things like a co-sleeper and a crib that before I could even put them in the garage, someone was taking them and putting them on their truck. But it's also wonderful for the potential educational aspect, as there are various trailheads obviously throughout that area, but for the potential educational aspect with the, I think, potential arboretum involvement as well. So thank you for your support already in considering this.
Thank you, Mr. Zucker. He lives on West End.
Yes.
Any other, well, you're supposed to say your address, so. Any other comments from the public? Okay, Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call?
I was
Just a regular.
No roll call. Voice vote.
Actually,
Okay.
I have to comment. I would, President Pro Tem?
Yes, please.
Okay, I just wanted to thank all the Conservancy members for all the hard work. I know this has been a long, long process, and I thank you all for your persistence and for all the work that you put into this. This is going to be a great project, and I think it's very exciting, so thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And I know you still have a bit more fundraising to do, right, to complete the project, so, you know, we support you. Let us know what we can do to help. So we don't need a roll call. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman McTiernan.
Thank you, Councilman Pro Temp, or Council President Pro Temp, I apologize. Yeah, I think this is a really neat idea, and as our Council President mentioned as he exited the dais, it's been a long, long time coming. I know this was a passionate project for our former mayor, Ellen Dixon, really spearheaded getting this off the ground, and that's the first time that I really heard about it, and it seems such a neat idea, and it's great to have such community involvement, especially amongst young people. You could just tell there's an incredible amount of enthusiasm and passion, and that's what kids are really good at, and it's great to see it channeled in a constructive way. Yeah, I guess, you know, the one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't say, you know, this part of this resolution for people at home, you know, this is going to be funded by the Conservancy raising money, but the city has an in-kind and some material that's going to be in the budget. And one of the things I do want people to understand is that, you know, there is an obligation that the city is taking on and funding around this, and it's roughly a quarter of the proposed cost. I do worry a tiny bit about just looking at the budget numbers. And we have an architect here, so he probably knows a lot more about this than me, but having done some projects, of the total construction cost of $400,000, we have a $15,000 contingency. My contingencies, I wish my budgets only overrode, you know, by that little amount of money. So I do worry a little bit about that. Not enough to want to stop the project, but you know, these things are important, and we should make sure that you know, we plan appropriately.
Thank you, Councilman McTiernan. Good points. Any other comments? Okay, Madam Clerk? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And I'll return to my seat.
Alrighty. Moving along. General Services. Councilwoman.
Yes, thank you, Council President. At this time, I would like to move this resolution for the dynamic ride-sharing program to increase the number of participants with the LIFT program. This resolution would include in the rideshare program residents who are also downtown employees. After much discussion in General Services and SPAC, it was discussed to increase the eligible participants to not only folks who live in Summit who want to take the train, but also to Summit residents who work in downtown Summit, and hopefully help alleviate some of the employee parking problems that we are having, and as an incentive to get employees to take advantage of this program. The rideshare was originally approved for 200 participants and the ability to increase it to 250. And records indicate that we have 130 registered permit holders. So it really is incumbent on us to try to help incentivize the employees to please use this program. So at this time, I would like to move this resolution to increase membership.
I second.
Any discussion by members of Councilwoman Little?
I just want to say that we've had some discussions at the Parking Advisory Committee. They're very much in favor of this as well. We, as many of you know, the city contracted with Lyft rather than Uber, and this is a measure that we did that last year, and there has been success in increasing ridership and participation in the program since we did that. The Lyft program does allow you to schedule rides ahead of time, and it just seems to be more user-friendly. So we've seen some increase in participation, and one way that we wanted to further increase it was to open it up to employees who work in the downtown who are residents, and this is all in an effort to increase parking for people that are coming into the downtown to shop and to eat and to use our downtown, and to avoid the expense and the long-term obligations of building a large structure, and to do that in ways that are more creative and more forward-thinking. So, I'm very much in favor of this resolution as well. I think it's going to be a good move forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman McTiernan.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great idea to look to increase usage, and certainly Summit resident commuting into work in Summit takes up a parking space just like a commuter going into the city, and we obviously have a lot of people in Summit who live and work here as well, which is one of the great things about our community. So I'm all for that. It is just interesting, though, when these ideas get floated, it's hard to model behavior, right? I mean, we've got 200 odd of these spaces, and they only get 38 usages a day on average. And you think about it, why wouldn't you use it? But obviously, people have real valid reasons for their own, and it's difficult to kind of predict how people behave. But I think this is a great step on the margin to add some extra spaces, because we continually have to do this. I think one of the 2,000-pound gorilla in the room continues to be that we have a parking shortage in our downtown. Whatever study you look at, we still continue to have one. And I am completely on board about this idea that the last resort should be to build a deck. And I think there's a lot of hope that big picture technological changes over the next decade, perhaps, will alleviate that need through ride sharing and self-driving cars and all that kind of that's the AI. That's meant to tell me to shut up. But that's hope. We can't bank on that. So I think it's incumbent upon the city to continue to look for ways on the margin to alleviate what is a real-time problem, which is this parking shortage. And I'd love to continue to see initiatives come out of our parking services group with SPAC as advice. Later on the ordinance around the meter changes, that's an idea that's been talked about for years, and as using more efficiency. It's not a monetary thing per se for the city, but it's a pricing thing on scarcity and a way to effectively manage our assets that we have them. But these things continue. We need these ideas to continue to come, like the stackables. I know that was looked at, and I don't know where we are on that. We talked about valet service. I'd love to see a valet service for downtown shoppers. I mean, these are ideas I think we should continue to push to try and, on the margin, continue to chip away at this deficit that we have, where hopefully if we have some development in West Broad Street, that could help. But that's years away. So we've got to continue to focus on this.
Anyone else? Matt?
Building on what Councilman McTiernan said, if we have 130 or so users who are signed up and we get about 38 on average a day, is there any reason we couldn't just increase the amount of users signed up by doubling it? you know? If, I guess the worry would be that we get too many users one day that the lift can't support it, and that would be the problem. But if we have enough months of data that show that only, 20-some% of registered users are using it, after a while, we should be able to count on that number, and then we could sign up more people. For instance, I, who drive, and the reason that I drive is because sometimes I have to pick things up afterwards, and sometimes I don't want to be with someone in the morning. But at the same time, I might use it, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and that would still have the same effect as every user that's using it every day.
I just have a question. I know with the current lift system, people are dropped off at the train station. For the resident employees, if they sign up, where will they be dropped off? So it's the same. Okay, good. Because I'm sure someone's going to ask me, are they going to take me to my office? Thank you.
Anyone else? I have a question. Are we working through SDI to get the word out? Read it. Yeah. Yep. Okay. What's our, let's talk about the plan for getting the word out here.
Rita McNanny, Parking Services Manager. One of the things that we're going to do is we have the email addresses because these people are registered with Parking Services for their downtown employee permit. So again, we have access to their email address with SDI. Nancy and I, we've already talked. We can definitely get an email blast out with all the instructions. There's a form online they have to fill out, and we can get that process rolling as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, I agree that, this is, again, we're trying to address the issue, and we're trying to address it in a multifaceted way. And parking is an issue, a real issue for folks in the downtown. But we're trying to do things that will be consistent with trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can and achieve that goal. With that, I'll open it up for public comments. Any comments from members of the public? Seeing none. Any further discussion by members of council? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Moving along. Finance and personnel.
Thank you, Council President.
There you go.
Finance Resolution Number 1 is to establish procedure authorizing special tax appeal attorney upon advice and after request from the tax assessor to file corrective appeals, counter petitions, counterclaims, and stipulations of settlement with Union County Tax Board and the New Jersey Tax Court. That's a long way to say this is essentially a resolution that's similar to the ordinance that I introduced earlier that streamlines the procedures that were already in place. As some of you may remember, in January of this year, at our January 16th council meeting, the city changed our tax appeal attorney to employ the services of Martin Allen. When he came on board, he noted that we didn't have a resolution that set out the policies where the tax assessor and the tax appeal attorney would have to come to council to get approval for tax appeal settlements. In the past, the procedure had been, and the policy had been, that any tax appeal settlements that were in excess of $10,000 per year or a cap of $30,000 in total, they had the authority to settle those without coming to council, but there was no resolution in place that authorized that. So when Martin Allen took over as our tax appeal attorney, he was uncomfortable continuing with that policy without having a specific formalization by council that would be the procedure going forward. So this is what this resolution sets out. It continues the policy that has been in place for years, and it just formalizes the procedures that we've been following in the past. So I move this resolution.
Second.
Comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Any further discussion by members of council? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Second.
Thank you, Council President. Finance number 2 is a resolution to establish the Summit Economic Development Advisory Committee. And this is something that we've been discussing among the council members, and it's to establish a committee that would advise council and kind of take a holistic approach of evaluating our current commercial uses in town and our tax ratables, and look at different ways and opportunities that we could take advantage of improving those those items. So it's going to be comprised of 7 community at-large members, the mayor, the council president, the chair of the finance committee, the chair of the buildings and grounds committee, and the city administrator. And that committee will work to advise council and the different council committees. So I move this resolution forward.
Thank you.
Second.
Any comments from members of council?
I guess I have one question. That's a big committee. Do we need to be that, that large to keep it streamlined and recruit people?
I think that the thinking was that there are different expertise in the community that would be valuable to this community. There'd be real estate people, there would be business owners, there would be different people that bring different expertise to the table. So similarly to the Summit Parking Authority Advisory Committee, we looked at bringing in different people from the community that would bring different voices to the table and advise us. So in setting up this committee, which will be done by council appointment, we would look to bring in people that had those different skills and expertise to advise council.
Any further comments, questions? Mike?
Yeah, I guess when I first heard some idea about this being talked about last year, I kind of scratched my head because I wasn't quite sure what it was or where it kind of falls into the structure on how, the city operates versus how the private sector operates. And I must admit, I'm still confused. When I look at this thing, for its mission, we already have a lot of this stuff that happens, or what we're actually talking about is another committee that is going to, through again this quote unquote expertise, to be able to look at, evaluate things that are already either being done by the private sector, or we have city staff to do. And I just wonder whether this is just another layer of redundancy that ultimately will end up creating recommendations that get the government more involved in creating winners and losers amongst our downtown. Like you evaluate current commercial uses and tax ratables. I mean, and review land uses, zoning regulations. We have groups that do this. We have a process in town. We have a master plan that the entire community gets behind every 10 years to look at development. That's what it's for. We do that, and it's not 7, appointed members and some government officials and council people who, honestly, I don't have any expertise in building management or store. I was chair of one of these committees. Why, what's my expertise that I bring to the table? But we have a community process that does this already. We also, we monitor unused, vacant, underused commercial properties and investigate economically advantaged uses for such properties. We have commercial real estate brokers in town. We have people who own properties. It's their business to manage their properties for the best economic incentive. I don't understand what we would be doing around this other than ultimately trying to offer tax advantages to rent your property out, which again is either a cost to the city or a cost to the building owner. And finally, on coordinating efforts with county and state economic development agencies on grant programs, we have a grant writer that we've already paid for. They're on retainer. That's their job is to look at this type of thing. So I just worry that this is going to get in between the planning board that already does a lot of this stuff. We have a master plan process that has the community involvement in figuring out what type of development we want in town over a longer term period. And this to me just seems like a committee that I think is redundant to many of the functions that either should be done by private landowners or real estate agents or other functions of the city or council or already different committees that are established.
I just like to share, I agree with Mike. I think it is a lot of redundancy, and I think that
I'm not either.
Thank you, Council President. I feel like with the rapidity of change in today's commercial world, I think, in our downtown being one of the prized gems of Summit, I think I like the idea that we're approaching this problem with some heavy-duty firepower. So I'm in support of it. On my thoughts about it, and let me try to address some of the concerns by other council members. Let me first deal with the issue of the size of the community. There are other communities that we have that are equally large, and sometimes it is necessary to get expertise from different folks who have different backgrounds
active or reactive?
Yeah, just some comments on that. You know, people move here because they like our town. They like the way the downtown is. It has, people always talk of it as a gem. It didn't get there by accident. It got there because there's a collective group of people who, through their own economic interests, make the downtown what it is. Nobody's been telling people in the downtown, outside of changing zoning and ordinances, that through a process that's been in place on how the downtown existed. To me, it's the ultimate in hubris to think that you can have a collection of a few people who can magically determine what our downtown should look like over the collective will of our 22,000 residents and all the agents who operate in this thing. When you put an entity in place, all of a sudden they have to do something. And what this committee is going to end up doing is going to start to make recommendations about changing rules to create winners and losers because they believe it's the best thing for the downtown. Well, who decides that? It's a large group, but we have a process that has served the city very, very well. We all live here for a reason. We all love the place. And to think that we, all of a sudden going to have this, I have this solution to fix it and make it better over the next 10 years, what we're going to end up with this is making recommendations to tax empty storefronts. These are the types of things that government gets into, and it's just not right. And I just don't see any use or any reason why some committee can do it better than the planning board, the collective will of the town through the master plan process, and our commercial real estate agents who make a living figuring out the economically advantageous use for properties along with the property owners. So I just think this is just completely redundant, and it's dangerous because ultimately it's just going to lead to bad recommendations that possibly could end up being adopted at some stage.
I just can't disagree more strongly that an advisory board made up of citizens who are volunteering could be dangerous or could be somehow antithetical to what we're trying to do as a city. We have a parking services department. We also have a parking advisory committee that's made up of members of the public that give advice and give different perspectives and bring different expertise that they can give suggestions to parking services. This is the same type of thing. And when you're talking about you don't have any particular expertise, that maybe you shouldn't be sitting on this. We would look for people that did have expertise, that did have things that they could bring to the table to advise us. This body has no legislative ability. They would be bringing things to the different organizations that already exist and different suggestions and be looking holistically at different problems. And one of the many comments that you made is one of the reasons I think maybe we need this is that you kept referring to the downtown. We have many economic areas in our town besides the downtown area. We have economic areas in East Summit. We have commercial areas. We have different things that we can be looking at and advising and looking holistically at how to set our city up for success in the future. And when we bring people that want to volunteer their time and talent to making the city better, then I think it's, instead of calling it dangerous, I call it valuable. And I would like to move forward with this committee.
Marjorie.
I second Councilwoman Little's comments. I think one of the issues that we've observed is that our committees are somewhat siloed, and we look at buildings and grounds, looks at certain things, finance looks at certain things, but there's no opportunity to have that kind of cross-pollination of information and to get the input of other experts. And as far as grants, there are, yes, we have a grant writer, but there also are opportunities where this committee could meet with the county economic development people. And, there are a lot of different opportunities that don't happen given our current committee structure. And I think having this larger committee with residents adds value.
I just have one more comment. Sure. I attended the New Jersey Planning Conference in January, and in talking to many of the other mayors and other people that were there, that this is very common that towns and municipalities have an economic development committee, so this isn't something that, you know, we're making up out of whole cloth, or that is not something that has been useful and tried in other communities and been successful. So we did, in talking with other people, this is something that's been successful in other communities and something that I think we should go forward with.
Thank you. Let me take comments from the public. Are there any comments from the members of the public? Any further discussion by members of council? I'll just close by saying I think there may be a philosophical divide between some people who have a certain view towards how the role of government and versus others on the role of government. But to me, I think most people in this town accept the notion that having, as Councilwoman Little said, a voluntary board of folks, yes, making recommendations, but recommendations that have to be voted on by a council. It's not as if they can impose their recommendations. And yes, we have other committees and boards that do things, but that's because they bring expertise in certain areas. This is an ability to try to think holistically. It's not simply limited to the downtown. That's an important point. It is that we have business that goes on in various areas of this town, tax-paying commercial entities all throughout this town. And we need to think about how those areas are also developed. We have to position ourselves and think of ourselves not just for the immediate, but for the long term and the near long term. So I think this is one of those really important steps in how we think about the type of town we are. And with that, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay,
May I just, who said nay? I know it was...
Nay.
No.
Hardy nay.
party line vote. Okay. Moving on to Works. Works 1, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Council President Nadeau. Resolution 5555. This authorizes the 2018 Arbor Day festivities. Arbor Day's foundation's mission is to inspire people to plant, nurture, and celebrate trees. Summit is a tree city, USA, and has continually celebrated Arbor Day. This year we will celebrate Arbor Day on Friday, May 18th. Highlighting the celebration will be the planting of 2 deciduous trees at Washington Elementary School, and also distributing tree seedlings to the students for planting. We had to change the date because of some school testing, so that everyone can take advantage of it. And given what we've gone through the last couple of weeks, I'm sure we could replace some of those trees. So I move we accept this resolution.
Second.
Okay, any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Next resolution is Resolution 5623, authorizing submission of the 2018 Community Stewardship Incentive Program grant application and acceptance for hazardous tree removal and pruning. This is a non-match grant through the Department of Environmental Protection. We'll remove or prune trees that are identified by our forester. This is an ongoing issue in Summit and deals with the, Summit has an ongoing issue with the emerald ash borer beetle, which is known to significantly reduce the inventory of the ash tree here in the Northeast, and I move we accept this resolution.
I second that.
Comments or questions from members of council? Comments or questions from members of the public? Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
3.
Next resolution, 5648, is authorized submission of a grant application, Union County Recycling Enhancement Grant. The city has, with assistance of the Recycling Advisory Committee, reviewed the grant guidelines and recommends that we go for this grant to install 2 big belly trash and recycling containers to be placed out in Glenside. What is neat about these are they compact the material 5 times the traditional storage space. And what's important about that is Glenside is a little out of the way, and so we won't have to be running our trash guys down to empty those trash containers. I was recently down in Philly, and these things are really neat. They're all over town, and they really do a job. They get they're actually a little entertaining in that they have communication. Yeah, anything to get the people going. You know, we talked about, you know, changing people's behaviors. If you make recycling fun, they will come. Basically, like I was saying, these containers have sensors that will communicate with Works Department and let us know when they need to be recycled. I move we emptied. I move we accept this resolution.
I second this.
Councilman Gould.
Thank you, Councilman Bowman, for bringing this up. Yeah, they have these all over New York, too. I love these things. My only question is, after these two, can we get more for...
As year upon year, as the grants come out and as we get more involved in them, yeah, we definitely will be placing them in. It's a great introduction to it, to the system. So.
Right.
Any other further?
I would also add that these are solar powered, so that's a good thing. And Glenside Field is a pretty remote location so this will save city staff time and money, and it'll save fuel too. And the other thing it will do is contain the waste, so it's a closed system, so we're not going to have problems with overflowing bins and waste that ends up on Glenside Field or in the surrounding areas. So there are a lot of really great things about this program, so I fully support it.
Any other further discussion? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And next.
Okay. Resolution 5617 is the extension of a sick leave. As we discussed in closed session, this is an extension of sick leave through April 13th for a public works employee. This is not a workers' comp issue. This is just an individual who needs to be out through the April 16th due to surgery. I move we accept this resolution.
I second it.
Any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Resolution 5618 is a declaration of vacancy in the Department of Community Services, the role of full-time administrative manager. The current full-time administrative manager we've discussed with her taking on the part-time role that is open, and this would allow her to recruit and train the person who is going to be taking over her role. This is her transition to a retirement type role, and this is not any additional staffing and is included in the 2018 budget. I move we accept this resolution.
Second.
Comments or questions from members of council? Comments or questions from members of the public? Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? So
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any postings? Okay, great. Council member comments, new business, anybody?
Oh. Thank you, Council President. I would just like to remind everyone that at the transfer station, we're going to be going live with the license plate recognition, so please, please, please get your permit in so that you can be read and not get turned away from the transfer station, your favorite place to go on any given day of the week. So I just remind everybody to make an effort to do that.
Thank you. Yes, good point. Anybody else? That, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.